Howdy, folks, and welcome to Moose Podcast 168. I know you had a great holiday. A lot of you got some new gear. I know that because my inbox has been burning, but I appreciate that. You got questions, you feel free to sit there and send them to me, and I will answer them the best that I can. Just understand I don't have all the answers, especially just for yourself, because I'm still looking for all the answers just for my own photography, but I will help you as best as I can. So appreciate you taking time right now to listen and not being diving into that instruction book or out and playing with that new tool, and listening to the Moose Podcast. Also want to thank my good friends at Bedford Camera. That's bedfords.com, where you can get so many good things, and I'm actually going to talk about them a little bit in this podcast. But also remember that when you check out on that website, you go to that discount section, you type in Moose, Moose, not Moses, not Moss, but Moose, you'll get a 5% discount, as well as free shipping, and for a lot of states, no sales tax. But above that, you'll get some very good advice if you actually call them and then just tell them you want the Moose discount. I'm sure they will take great care of you and answer your questions to the best of their abilities. So let's get right into this week's podcast, the Year in Wrap. Now, this is not my idea. Peter sent this in, and I thought it was a pretty good idea. And then I read his email a bit further, and I'm like, oh man, because his question was, as far as I'm concerned, a bit loaded. He said, so Moose, was your 2019 a good year? And I instantly sat there and had to think about it. How am I going to measure whether 2019 was a good year? Now, photographically, I'm here to tell you it was nothing short of a major challenge, with a major project hitting a stone wall and coming to a screeching halt. You know, after 2 years, that's really hard. It was really hard for me to sit there and after the emotional and financial and physical investment, sit there and realize that, bam, it came to a halt, and we had no end game because we hadn't filmed the end game. So that, you could say from that point of view, no, it wasn't a great 2019. On the flip side, I did shoot one heck of a lot, had a great time. I got my first Smithsonian Air and Space cover. I've had other Smithsonian covers, but not on Air and Space. So I got my first Smithsonian Air and Space cover, which to me, that was pretty cool, especially since it was a biplane. But, the measure for the year for myself is not just one that's photographic. Has to do with everything goes on 365, 24/7. So this year was not a good year. I want to say it was pretty close to outstanding, almost coming up to a great year. So I hope you had the same one and maybe have the same kind of measuring tools. So even if you had failures, you still, as far as I'm concerned, if you're vertical and walking forward, you're still making it. But I had some other interesting questions that kind of led into this whole thing. I had Larry email in and he said, was there a favorite new location you went to in 2019? And, well, I thought that was a great question for a number of reasons. The main one being is the fact that I've been pushing myself for the last few years to go to a number of locations that have been strongly recommended to me when I first started out. Places where I had no financial means of making it happen. There was just no way. I didn't have the gear. I didn't have the time to go to the travel. I didn't have the money for the film, that stuff that came in a little metal cassette, 36 frames. It was just totally impossible. So for the last few years, I've been fortunate enough to sit there and bring back this, what was a very important priority list, and make it back into a priority. And so, yes, Larry, to answer your question, probably the highlight for me was going up to St. Mary's for the Northern Gannets. I mean, there's some other great places I went to, but that one there, just thinking about it, sitting here thinking about it, it just kind of takes my breath away. There is, 40,000 Northern Gannets. this 6-foot wingspan bird flying through the North Atlantic without barely a wing beat, and just there's no way you cannot see them doing this, thousands at a time, and not think they just simply enjoy the fact that they can just ride those waves, currents of air without any effort, and just look down upon our world. Uh, and I'm sitting here, I'm working really hard figuring out how I'm going to get to it next year to even do it better. I came back with tens of thousands of images, and I think I can go back and actually take as many and do a better job. And that's one of my challenges that I have before me for 2020. So that's a great question, Larry. Scott emailed in and he asked, was there anything new when it comes to gear or techniques in 2019 that kind of lit your fire and got you excited? Well, personally, it would have to be a couple of things. First of all, it would be the Z6. The Z6 has turned into such an essential tool for so much of my photography. Not all of it. The D5 is still the primary body, but that Z6, it's so small, it's so light, it has great files, it's so versatile. And then you put the Z24 to 72.8 on it, that combo of those two lenses, or body and lens, those two items, I've shot a gazillion pictures with them this year. And I'll be honest with you, the D5, the D5 with the 180-400 VR and the Z6 with 24 to 72.8, those two combos created almost 80% of my files this year. Just those two lenses, those two bodies, about 80% of my files. Yeah, I'm kind of weird. At the end of the year, I always go through and look at the stats. I just go into Bridge, look at the metadata. It pops it up, for wildlife. I look at birds, critters, landscapes, and aviation. It just shows me real quick the most commonly, what most of the images I file are with, and boom, those were amazingly the things I shot with the most this year, and it was a very, very photographically productive year. So Scott, that's the gear part. Techniques. Techniques, that might be a little more esoteric for a lot of you. As you know, doing my Vet Chronicles, and I've been, since I had a block of time where I could sit down and actually work on it, because it's about 70 hours of editing to do one, Vet Chronicle. There's a lot into it. And I knew Adobe Premiere okay. I could launch it. That was pretty good. And I could, create a new sequence. That was pretty good. And I could drag in things every so often, but boy, I was slow and clunky. So I went back to school and sat there and took a bunch of lessons in Premiere. So for me, the biggest things for techniques was learning how to be a better video editor, a faster video editor, which of course that combination allowed me to be hopefully a better visual storyteller through video. I had to push myself. I scraped every little minute aside to sit there and do that. And I had to shoot the video, and then you have to sit there and think about the story, and then you want to put it in a timeline, and then you sit there and go out and get the rest of the pieces to fill in the puzzle. It's a lot of challenge. So I kind of really enjoyed the fact that finally I feel at the end of this year, coming up shortly, that I can actually take on and shoot video and edit it myself and feel comfortable with the end product. It will be perfect. Yeah, I hate to tell you this. I don't strive for being perfect because, besides perfect being boring, I don't know if I would ever recognize it if I found it. So why go for it? So Lori has a really good question, and her question I thought deserved a little bit of time as well. And she wanted to know if camera stores matter. Now, reading, and I'm summarizing what she said, but it was kind of like, with things like Amazon and where you get clean, get stuff and technically save money, right? Why do we need camera stores? Well, first and foremost, You're talking to myself. Most people don't realize that starting in 1979, I worked in a camera store, and I worked in a camera store for a lot of years. And I helped build a really big one. Its specialty was Nikon gear. So that's how I originally came across and acquired all the knowledge that I wrote Nikon System Handbook, my first book, that sold over 100,000 copies. That, came from working with Nikon gear every day. And then in that process, an executive at Nikon actually spent some time with me, mentored me, helped me. And seriously, that's probably one of the big reasons why I'm here today is because of Victor's support all those years. So, I have always had a real soft spot for myself, for mom and pop stores. And there's a number of reasons. And I think Bedford's is one of the best examples out there today of it. While they have 7 brick and mortar stores and they have a web presence, they really are a people-oriented business. Whether you're selling ice cream, that sounds good right now. Ice cream, or they sell books, or they sell cameras, whatever they are a people person, and they happen to choose, thank goodness, photography. They sell all aspects of it, but more importantly, I know this firsthand because I've spent time in half their stores now. And I literally, with my good friend from Nikon, who's the rep for Bedford, we've gone into stores and I've spent my days there, volunteering, not being paid, because they do such an amazing job helping people with their photography. So do they make sales? Oh, heck yeah. Okay, they sell gear. But if you walk in and have a question, their motive to answering your question is not to sell you something. It's to get you excited and your problem-solving photography so you can go out and take more pictures. Now, there's absolutely no doubt that with education, people buy more gear. I mean, come on, a photographer who doesn't buy gear? I mean, seriously. I mean, that'd be like an ocean with no water. It don't make any sense, okay? I mean, we have to buy stuff. But the better educated we are, the better we buy. And so we buy the equipment we need the first time, and then our money goes so much further. So Lori, yeah, I think camera stores really count. There's a lot of great ones. I had a amazing 2 days in Topeka, Kansas at Wolf's Camera this year. And the nicest people had everything you can imagine for Nikon. Yeah, didn't look at the other brands. What can I tell you? And really knowledgeable people that could help you. I've spent time at Precision Camera down in Austin, another great store. So Bedford's is truly my favorite for so many reasons, but I haven't met any person at Bedford who I just didn't fall in love with and think they weren't great. So yeah, I think camera stores matter more than just getting a product at a best price. And as far as I'm concerned, Bedford, especially with that Moose discount, is going to beat anything you can find on Amazon. And then Debbie had the what I think is the loaded question, talking about the year wrap up. And she said, she asked me, so what do I have planned for 2020? Well, if you listen to the Moose podcast, you know that I do make plans. I have lists of them. I think about them. I'm constantly gathering parts to see if I can make something come together when I wanted to. So what do I have planned for 2020? Well, I have actually a number of things. I'm going to a couple more locations that I'm dying to see for myself for the first time. I'm going back to Australia. I'm going to go back to England and to London, which is just a marvelous place. So I'm doing some of those things. I'm also striking out a couple new projects. One of them is somewhat local here in California, and it's aviation and it's World War II vets. Surprise, surprise. I'm really going to push hard to sit there and try to get more vets story on camera, on film, and get those out. That's a big part of it. But yeah, I have plans for 2020, going 2021. A number of them leaking into 2022, and then 23 is on the radar screen. Now, in this process of making these plans, understand that one of the things that I'm doing is not trying to figure out not only the dates on the calendar and the subject at the time, but also the finances to make it happen, the gear I need, and the knowledge to make all that come together. So when I'm on site, to the best of my ability, I'm able to tell that visual story with all the tools, techniques, and passion I can bring to that moment. That's a really important part. So we're coming to the end of another great year starting. I know it will be another great year. Yes, the society has all sorts of ills about it, but understand that if you always take the high road, have that smile, and make sure you take those photographs and share them, you can make things better for yourself and everybody else. Because remember, every time you click, make it your story.